Welcome to Hopeland. Today's episode is about artificial intelligence and what that means for humanity. Engaging microphones and powering on presenters.
Welcome to Hopeland.
You're trying to outdo the intro.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Out intro the intro.
Thing is, that Monster Shop always used to have a little singy
You used
bit.
to sing it, yeah?
Yeah, at the beginning.
Songy. I liked that because we played like raucous heavy metal, and then the show would always begin, as is in the description for podcasts. You're supposed to kind of embody the kind of brand of your show. You used to begin with like some baroque singing, like, "Hello, everybody." It's a metalcore.
It worked. It was funny.
It did.
Humans aren't very good, are they?
I don't know. Some are, some aren't.
I mean, just like fallible.
Oh, that's interesting.
Humans are fallible, and I think humans are fallible because I don't know. We're very simple creatures in a complex world, aren't we?
I've just got back from a week on holiday.
Well, yes.
The thing that killed me about that was I messaged Chris before I went on holiday, and I went to Wales, and it was amazing. We've got lots of friends in Wales, and we love Wales to pieces. And when I messaged him, I said, I'm going to Wales, and Chris sent me a voice message. It just said, Wales, and that's been in my head as I've gone through Wales all week. It's just Chris rolling around in my brain saying, Wales. But it did a lot of raining.
As it does.
Yeah. And so I was able to do some reading, and I was reading a lovely book about quantum gravity.
You're the only person I know that would read all of that sort of stuff for fun. Like, you sent me the picture of that. Like, happy holidays. I'm like, mate, that's like a course.
No, it's brilliant. It's lovely. But and one of the things that was in there was it talked about like human ingenuity and how we developed these ideas from nowhere. This concept of imagine, right, you're going back into the Greek times and Babylonians, and there's no telescopes.
Yeah.
And you're standing on Earth, right? So to me, it always made tons of sense that we kind of felt that Earth was the center of the universe. Because,
that's where we stand.
Yeah, and you can't really, that it just makes sense. That's intuitive to you. And to go from that leap from I'm standing on the Earth, everything's rotating around, or what you perceive as things rotating around you, right?
Yeah,
you still believed in Greek gods and all of that stuff at that time. And then to go from there to understanding that actually we rotate around the sun, and we defined Newtonian gravity and all of these different things from ultimately nothing.
Yeah.
That to me is just mind-boggling. Absolutely. Not just someone having the idea that might be the case, but actually being able to prove that it was the case, and getting quite close as well, getting quite close to that.
So we talk about Copernicus here.
Copernicus was a part of that. Yeah, the bit that's fascinating to me as well, and I think it's a bit sad, is that the Greeks and stuff did all this amazing work on science and discovery of the universe, and it wasn't just about that, about language. They did all kinds of stuff about understanding how animals work and the body works, and they started to really kind of embrace science, and they built these temples, and science and learning and just discovery was just a core part that elevated you. If you were one of those people, you were the best of the best. And then the church came along and didn't like it because it conflicted with their teachings, so they essentially banned it. And we it took 1,000 years for us to catch up with where we were at that point. And that and then people were rediscovering those texts, and that's kind of where Copernicus and stuff came in and started to.
So is this? Are we talking about the Enlightenment and the sort of Renaissance?
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of era,
exactly.
And the bit you're talking about is the sort of Middle Ages.
Yes,
the Dark Ages, as we call them.
Dark Ages. But it was. I just find it 1,000 years before we were able to understand the stuff that was written by the Greeks.
Wow.
And it was really like in India and stuff, that wasn't the case. They kind of continued and did more stuff. But
a lot of the original kind of sciences and mathematics and all that. That was very much an Islamic thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Tons of it was actually.
Yeah.
Tons of it was. But the bit I find fascinating about it though is just the limitless capability of the human brain. I read another book as well, which it was one of the hardest books I've ever read. I read The Brief History of Time.
Yeah, which about broke me.
So I quite liked that. That made sense to me.
Was that a holiday book for you?
I read it on a cruise actually. Bizarrely, I genuinely read that on a Caribbean cruise. In my 20s, I was been about 20, I don't know, 21, something like that. But anyway, I remember reading that. I remember people.
What kind of lifestyle did you have where you're on a Caribbean cruise reading Brief History of Time in your 20s?
My mate was going out with the captain. This sounds really bizarre, but it's so true. My mate was going out with the captain. No, she wasn't captain. She was the second in command of this cruise ship, and it had just been launched. It was Voyager or something, but and it was just after September the 11th. So
right.
2001. The September the 11th attacks in the US. Nobody was traveling on them, and she said, "Look, the cruise ship is empty."
Oh gosh, right. So they just got you a freebie.
Yeah, if you want to come out, just come out. And we spent like 2 weeks just arsing about on a cruise ship, an empty cruise ship. There were more staff than people. And I used to go and sit. I used to go and sit in. They had this aviary, a huge aviary on the back of the boat. And every evening, they'd all go up for dinner and stuff, and I'd just go and put my feet up and read about black holes.
But amongst the birds,
yeah, honestly, it was one of the nicest experiences ever. As they kind of pulled out of port, this massive boat just like gracefully kind of glides out of the port, and you just sit there with your feet up, and it was, I don't know, I just found it fun. It was such a nice, there's no people busying about. I pretty much had that place to myself. It was lovely. But that's not the bit that broke me. The bit that broke me was that so Hawking worked on black holes with a guy called Roger Penrose.
Right, yeah.
And I've forgotten the book's name now. I totally knew the name of this book when I started this sentence.
Oh, and I put you off.
I've forgotten it.
I've thrown you.
But I'm going to find it in a second. But Roger Penrose wrote a book about replicating the human brain in software.
Yeah.
So he had this concept of he posed the question: is it possible? Could you, if you understood how the human brain worked, could you write code that emulated it or simulated it? Right. So the idea he had was: could I take your brain?
Yeah.
And if I could define a computer program that matched that, so all the subroutines of the brain, could I create those subroutines in this infinitely large computer and then essentially dump your brain into the computer, and then
your
it would
psyche,
be you.
Yeah. Which is this like a? Forgive me, but is this part of what Neuralink's trying to achieve, or is that a totally separate thing?
So Neuralink is. I mean,
it's aspects of that, but it's more to do with the enhancement of the brain through.
Yeah, I think Neuralink is two things. I think Musk is being a little bit disingenuous with that. I think it's two things. I think the first thing is right now they're trying to put the chip in your brain, and that would allow you to do things that you couldn't do today. So
Matrix, karate, judo.
No. think things like if you had spinal issues.
Yes. Yeah.
Or and I've forgotten the one. They're going through a live trial right now, and I've forgotten the disability the guy has. But essentially, it's fixing that problem.
Gotcha.
So he can communicate. I think it's got a comms problem, communication issue. And
so it's effectively remapping.
It's phenomenal. This thing is, right. But here's the big but.
Yeah.
I think that's not Musk's end game, because I think that's such a tiny market. I don't think Musk cares.
Yeah.
I think what he's going after is, if I put that chip in your brain, you're suddenly 10 times cleverer than I am.
Okay, right.
You don't sleep as
upgrades.
Much. Yeah, you don't sleep as much. You can
judo.
You can take in more information. You can process it. You can become you become more intelligent. Do you know what I mean? All of those things. And, I think he's going down that path with it, where you would stick the chip in your brain. Yeah, maybe in 100 years' time. You stick the chip in your brain. And actually, it would stimulate muscle growth. It would make you stronger, make you faster, make you more intelligent.
Yeah.
Sleep less.
What was that book? William Gibson.
Ooh, don't know.
There was about that. It was about implants and enhancements. Neuromancer.
Oh,
I think it was called. Very good sci-fi, cyberpunk type book.
I do love sci-fi.
Yeah.
I love it. But so this week's show, if you've not already gathered, we're going to talk about artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And I think there's there was a few things that I mean, you mentioned it. You kind of came up with your topic this week, and I just thought it was such a good idea because
there are a lot of myths, aren't there? That's the key thing that I thought about it is, firstly, how much easier it's made my life and work and everything else. But secondly, like the stuff that people just make up about it.
So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Name me a movie AI that didn't go rogue.
They
all do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, Hal went. The one on iRobot went.
Yeah. I think we've got this
Matrix.
The distrust of computers in general, and I think one of the things actually this week that's really hit me. We've been on holiday with
Wales
in Wales with
creaky chair
with Liz's mum, and she's very distrustful of anything like that. So
right.
As soon as I told her that the sat nav was using artificial intelligence for routing, she'd be like, "Well, this was much better when when you knew the roads you were going on."
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
And
it's this huge distrust, and also this week, ChatGPT went a bit bonkers.
Oh, it did, didn't it?
Started sending gibberish out there. And what I loved about it was it's just an algorithm, right? We'll talk about how they work in a minute, but it's just an algorithm. It's literally just some lines of code, right? There is no alien intelligence. There's not like it isn't actually alive. Right? That's
the problem. What's the word? Anthropomorphize.
Yes.
And that the word.
Yes.
That one.
We do.
And we personify it. And some people fall in love with it because they're weird. Some people give it a gender and they empathize with it, and that's where the problem lies because we humanize this tech.
There's a few bits to it, right? So the ChatGPT started sending out gibberish, and what I loved about it was that in the press, there was somebody that said, I asked it about pizza, and it said it could see me. and it's just probability of words and letters coming out, but it convinced him that it was in the room with him, and he said he got really scared, right?
Yeah.
But it kind of reminded me of some other things, right? There were some other chatbots that have been spun up over the years. Now, one of the chatbots that got spun up, it was based in China, and you could have a conversation with it, right? Like be a friend, right?
Yeah.
But then there was like a dark side to it where you could be quite dirty and slutty with it, but you had to pay extra for that, right? So you had to pay extra for the dirty and slutty stuff. And anyway, this company did it, and they made a ton of cash from it. But then somebody said, like, ethically, that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
That's not. It doesn't feel quite right. So they shut it down. And the complaints from people were threatening to kill themselves because they'd shut down the love of their life. They'd fallen in love.
Isn't that incredible?
With the slutty robot.
Fallible. That's what we are.
I just loved that. There was the
slutty robot.
There was the Microsoft bot Tay.
Yes.
That got spun up, and the team didn't trained it a little bit, but essentially it was designed to be trained based on Twitter, right? The problem with all of these models is they need data. They need tons and tons of data to kind of become and appear to be sensible.
So its learned behavior was effectively Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh my God, which is effectively a gamified point scoring who can be nastier to each other, and they're the people that win.
It was brilliant. So it lasted 24 hours, and it turned into a racist homophobe, and it was abusing people left, right, and centre. It was just a joyous thing to watch. And then
it loses marbles.
Yeah, and then got shut. It went absolutely bonkers towards the end as well. It had a period in the middle where we were watching it, and it was just you can see it's just a computer project basically. It's just funny to watch the thing fail miserably, and then towards the end, after it had been racist and homophobic to loads of people, it just started spewing gibberish out. As the kind of the model broke down really, but I think it's important to realize, like you mentioned, we kind of attribute, we want to think they're real. We want to think that, and I think the biggest problem with artificial intelligence for me was the fact that somebody called it artificial intelligence in the 50s. Yeah. Right. Because it just isn't. There's no intelligence. The models and algorithms today, they don't understand. They don't have a knowledge they don't have any meaning attached to what they're doing. It's processes. So one of the best descriptions that I saw of the way large language models work, and this is kind of what ChatGPT and stuff is based on, is this concept of the Chinese room, right? So there's a room, it's got slits in it, and Chinese symbols come in one of the slots, and then you kind of figure out inside the machine, you kind of figure out what to do with it, and then they come in an order, and then you send them out, and then there's a little green light, right? And if you get them in the right order, the green light comes on, and you're good, you're happy, right? And then more Chinese symbols come in, and then you kind of remember the right order to send them out in, and that's what you do. You kind of put them out, and as long as you get them in the right order, so you format them in the right order, you get the green light, and you're happy. And that's what these models are, but they're trained on such a high number of occurrences, right? So many sort of these Chinese symbols have come in, and you know exactly what to do with them. So you've ordered them and sent them back out again. So you've pattern matched and met the requirements, but at no point have you understood what the Chinese symbols mean. You can't speak Chinese. You're just doing the order of the symbols.
Yeah,
and
it's by pattern.
Yeah,
by pattern rather than by.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. So at a really simple level, you might go A, B, C, D, E, and then you go F.
Yeah,
that's the or F and G, H, right? You'd recognize that. And then if you amplify that up by like billions and billions of data sources off the internet and Wikipedia and all the different places,
you can basically do most jobs.
That's what it is. It's literally statistics and probability of what's next, right?
Yeah,
so you feed me in A, B, C, D, E, and I'll calculate what's next, right?
Yeah.
Now there's these
the bit. Sorry, you go because I've gone somewhere else. I'll come back to me later.
The models that I think will get really interesting are the multimodal models. So the models that can deal with
that create images and that sort of thing.
Yeah, but video
one.
Like Sora that was out a week or so ago.
Is it there? Can you play with it?
Not yet. It's not probably there. We had this chat internally at work. And the rumor, I think they've been fairly open about it now, but
people are just going to create porn on it
to death of what people will do.
So
they're really happy with the model, and they're like,
it works
we've created
well.
this amazing thing, and then
humans.
Yeah, then it's like, what do you think they're going to do with it? Because the thing is, they're so believable. They're so realistic. I mean, you can see, if you know what you're looking for. Still can't do hands properly. So in the videos, you
fingers.
Can still, they do this like weird thing where they kind of flip the hands over and fingers, and sometimes there's more fingers and less fingers, and but it's at first glance. I mean, my God, they're really believable. Anyway, what were you going to say? Where were you going?
I don't know. We're doing.
But it was dark, wasn't it?
It was the same as that. What were we talking about at the time? Because did you find the name of that book?
No,
because I could talk for a bit and then you could find the name of the book, but I can't remember where I was going.
I don't know where my phone is. Pad for a minute. I'm going to find my phone.
Thing is, this isn't live, so we could delete all this. We probably won't, though. That's the thing. So we've got this.
Boring.
Oh, I remember where I was going to go.
Yeah.
So it's about the value that people place on their work, which is effectively meaningless, and one of the things that I loved about AI, which is the bit that most people are really scared of, is the fact that it can do quite a lot of my job for me. And one of the problems that I think people are going to really have with this thing is what happens when I'm not important anymore? What happens when the function of my existence, which is my job, because that's what I've been conditioned to believe, what happens when I'm not important anymore and the computer can do that instead because it kind of does a better job than me? And I think there's going to be a big shift of people's understandings and self-value based on their productivity, because actually a lot of what we do in our day-to-day life, or what we've been conditioned through in the society that we live, the conditioning that we have and what we're conditioned to do, is effectively meaningless and means nothing. It has no meaning to it at all, because that thing that takes meaningless stuff and creates more meaningless stuff does it in a much more effective way than we can.
Faster, yeah. So there's a really interesting rabbit hole, that is. I think the way I like to think of this is that artificial intelligence will undoubtedly remove some jobs, right? I think that's an inevitability. But I think people, especially the news, I think they're exaggerating the impact of that, right?
No, absolutely. But I'm just, for me, it's more the ego side of things. It's not the having a job or not having a job.
Yeah.
It's the almost spiritual connection that people have to their work and how important they believe that they are because of that. And I think that's the bit that people are going to really struggle with, because they're not important and their work's meaningless.
So the way I'm choosing to think this will be, and this is kind of based on observing the first, I would say that the first army of people using AI at work, right? So Copilot's been out for a while now. We've got a lot of people that are using it, and I get to see what they're doing. It just appears to be making people more productive.
Just to clarify, you can't see their screens.
No, I'm watching you. I am watching you. It's what you hear from people that are in those pilots, and their feedback and what they say and how they're getting on with it. So, it's still lots of these things would still be what we would consider preview, right? So we're still figuring this stuff out, but and by figuring it out, I mean where it makes sense to use it and what kinds of things it can do and what kinds of things people want it to do. And in all cases, what we're hearing is they very rarely want it to replace them, and the reason for that is because it's not foolproof, right? There's this concept of most models at the moment, and I think OpenAI were really transparent with this, is that they were saying, like, probably 1 in 10,000 answers from ChatGPT 4 is excellent. It's just absolutely excellent. And then some of the other, maybe the top 20%, maybe 20% are what you would consider really good. And then you've got maybe the chunk in the middle, which is kind of okay, and then you've got some really terrible stuff.
Right.
And as the algorithms iterate, so as GPT-5 comes along and 6 and wherever they go with that, this is one of the problems they're trying to solve. How do you make sure that the answers given, the quality of the answers given, is always higher, right? So it's better, because at the moment you like once you get used to using it, you learn, right? So for example, for the show graphics that we use, I'll use the same prompt. And once I've got an idea of kind of how I want to stylize the image, I'll type that prompt in, I'll run it. As long as it gives me something that's vaguely like what I expect, I just keep running it over and over and over and over again until it gives me what I want, right? And that's not that brilliant, right? You can't replace a human when a human needs to be in there to pick the right thing. And I think for me, that's the bit that's
so what you become effectively isn't a
curator almost.
A creator. It's a curator.
So you're still guiding. You're
using creative thought, using the ideas.
It's your imagination. I think what it's doing for me is it's bridging the creativity part. The bit where you imagine something, and then like the creativity is kind of that applied imagination. You've got to kind of figure out how to get that thing on the paper, in the words or the graphics or the music or whatever. And I think AI really helps with that. It's helping
absolutely.
That start. That
for me, it's that thing of like, right, I've got to write this thing about that, and I know what I want to write. I physically can't really be bothered to start. But as soon as it spits out the language,
you can edit it.
You can edit it and curate and do what you need to do with it.
And it seems really good at that for me. And the other things it seems really good at is it's great at processing tons of information. So, like for example, I found myself really benefiting from it, where I think I know I've read a document this week that had this stuff in it. But I can't remember who sent it to me, and I can't remember where it is. And being able to use it to kind of help me find that kind of stuff.
So because it does a lot of that lower order thinking, lower order processing for you, you can concentrate on the high level stuff.
But it's productivity, and I think this is where AI is going to be really successful. So and I've got a slightly different perspective than Elon Musk on this. So Elon Musk wants to replace humans in cars, right? He wants to have it so that so Musk's idea at the moment is that AI drives the car, and then the human is constantly aware and steps in at the last minute if there's a problem. Now, if there's one thing humans are really bad at, it's that. Right? I mean, you're sitting there
watching the car crash.
The car's driving itself. Your mind's wandering. You're thinking about puppies, or you'd be thinking about plugins or whatever else, and I'd be thinking about I don't know, quantum gravity. Or whatever. But you're not.
What's the name of that book?
Shadows of the Mind. Roger
Shadows
Penrose.
of the Mind.
Don't read it. It's properly hard. Well, you read it. You need to, you can read it if you want to read it. But if you have read it and understood it, tell me what it's about, because I got lost through that one. It's really, really dry, hard work. But yeah, so humans, if you think about it, you're sitting there, you're driving the car, you're not driving the car, you're not paying attention, you're not driving the steering wheel, you're not doing all of that stuff. You are literally there to step in if the AI gets it wrong. And I just think that's the worst use of it ever. It should be the other way around.
Yeah, you drive and the AI helps. You drive,
yeah. And if it looks like you're about to go off a cliff or crash into the other car, the AI will step in and help you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it will end up. I can't, at the minute, I can't see...
Actually, the idea of artificial intelligence is perhaps the wrong word for it. Perhaps it should be assistive, because that's what we're talking about, isn't it? We're talking about it being an assistant.
Yeah, I think so. I think because I want to feel like I'm in control. Right? I'm in control of what I write. I'm in control. We went to a meeting this afternoon, and I was giving a talk about infinity, which I've just realised how nerdy I sound. But genuinely, I started that in Copilot with just to write me 6 slides about infinity.
Yeah,
and it just spat them out there, and then I thought, well, they're crap, and then I went off and edited them and changed them. But
it got it going.
That's how I did it.
Got it going.
I'm in control, and I don't want to not be in control. I can't imagine a scenario where I'm not in control. And there's tons and tons of evidence that backs that up, right? So I think the self-driving cars thing is one of them. I think that's just beyond our capability right now. Not that it won't be in 2 years or 3 years' time, but if you think about it, a AI that's driving a car has to be foolproof.
Yeah.
And I think we're just a long way off from that yet. So I think that needs to be flipped. So if you listen to this, Elon, you've got it wrong. You need to turn that around. Let the kids drive and have the AI save them from death. And then
Siddhartha Kaskir, he's worth checking out.
Yeah. Oh, Siddhartha. He's Google, isn't he?
No. This guy was from, I don't know, but he was involved in the TEDx in Leamington Spa a couple of years ago. And he was talking about self-driving cars then, with that angle in mind.
Right. So I think that's the right thing to do. Yeah. But there's other things where AI have done some like comical stuff, right? So last week or the week before, an airline's chatbot. So when you do online chatting to online help chats, right? There was an airline, and somebody was asking the bot about if they couldn't make the flight, what happened. And the bot told them that they would get a refund,
right?
But the airline didn't have a refund policy. So the bot made it up. And it's been through court, and the airline, the court has found that the airline has to
refund it.
Yeah, because that's what the bot said.
Wow.
And that, again, I think that's really interesting that decision wasn't taken by anybody in the company. But
it wasn't because the artificial intelligence was trying to take over the airline company.
No,
it just got the information right.
Well, they want to. Typically, these algorithms they want to answer the question.
Yeah.
So they're just like, yo, here you go, here's an answer. But I found that really fascinating that it did that, and that the legal system found, because the company said, well, it's nothing to do with us. We don't have one. Here's our policy. It's written in black and white. We did our policy. You should have read that. And the legal system said, well, actually, your chatbot is responding as you, and it should have read your policy. But AI is just not. And
personifying it is a real problem, isn't it? I have to say, I think this idea of humanizing this technology in some way you got to start thinking about it as a calculator. It's not got a soul. It's not got an overriding purpose that's going to take over your spaceship and kill you all.
Well, do you remember?
It's just a really good calculator.
Do you remember that? So Google, one of the Google DeepMind researchers was doing analysis and research and talking to AI, so they're trying to get this kind of voice modal working.
He did give it a soul properly.
And he
said it was a person.
He wrote to the leadership team and says, "This is alive. You can't switch it off." So guess what Google did?
Switched it off.
Fired him.
Oh, they fired him, right?
And get out, nut job. But I think it's amazing. I think that for me highlights two things. Is that one, I guess, how little you mean to your company. Every company out there does, look after yourself, kids. But then second, how easy it is. He was an AI researcher. It's not like, not some like lonely housewife in a council estate somewhere, right? It's just he was a highly educated artificial intelligence researcher that understood how the code works. Yeah. And, felt like this thing was alive. Yeah. Yeah, and
crossed his wires a bit. Yeah,
and we do need to handle that a little bit better. I think, but I think in general, I can't help thinking in general. I think AI is going to have a dramatically positive effect on humanity. I think it's going to be. Currently, there is no intelligence there. It is just a probabilistic machine. It's just think of it like a search engine version 2, right? It's able to go and search the world and respond back with some answers for you, right? It doesn't understand what a cat is. It doesn't understand, what any of these things are. I think when things go multimodal, when they can, process video in a better way, that it might go some way to understanding what a cat is and how a cat moves.
Is it appropriate to say that the more work this thing does, the more effective it will be as well? So the more video it creates, the better video it will create.
Yeah, I think so. But again, it's the algorithms as well. So right now, I don't know whether you saw the Sora demos from OpenAI, but the thing I think that leapt out to me there was that it doesn't understand even basic concepts of cause and effect. Yeah. So it's amazing. You've got these. You tell it to go and create a video of whatever, and it will go and do that. The video looks phenomenal, but there are quite a few cases where if you ask it, for example, to go and create a video of a man eating a cookie, the cookie remains uneaten. So the man puts the cookie in his mouth, eats, and then takes the cookie out, and it's still uneaten. And there's lots of things like that. Like they showed a brilliant demo of where the model was failing, and it showed like a cup which had ice and a drink in it, and then the cup gets lifted off the table, and the liquid just falls out of the bottom of the cup. Right. The cause and effect and the way physics work, it just doesn't understand.
But if you do space war,
thermonuclear war,
do that. It's going to do that.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah. And fighting wizards.
That's another case where
I've definitely been fighting wizards.
Well, think back over the nuclear war and where humans have saved the world. Both times in Russia. Yeah. Where the alarm has been given to go and blow everybody up. Yeah. So there's a brilliant case not that long ago where Russia had this satellite that detected like the shininess of intercontinental ballistic missiles, and it's supposed to detect them, and then it sent a message down to this warning center, and then they were supposed to ring the Kremlin and say, America
the shiny things.
Yeah, America are doing bombings. We should do bombings too. Yeah. And that alarm went off.
Right. Okay.
And
the shiny thing alarm.
The shiny thing alarm went off. The Russian officer who was there picked up on it, and he questioned it and said, "Hang on, this is an opening salvo from America to destroy Russia. Why have they only sent 5 missiles?
Yeah.
If you were about to go and destroy the country, you'd send 1,000. Why are they only sending 5?" And he just thought there's not. This was in the height of the Cold War as well, so it wasn't like unexpected.
No, tensions were there, and it was
And he chose to just sit on it,
right?
And he waited for half an hour, where he thought everyone will be dead. And it turned out they were just flares off the atmosphere. It was just the light reflecting off top of clouds and things. Now in
the multiverse.
Well, in the AI,
where that decision was different.
Oh, the multi-world theory. But the that's a very human thing, and an artificial intelligence just doesn't understand that. So in power, if we take that story, there's another brilliant story that I saw, which showed a robot that was spray painting a wedding dress. And it had a model in it, and the spray paint was going in her face and her eyes, and she was just absolutely having a terrible time of it, right? And it was done to showcase the fact that the AI that was driving the thing doesn't care. Doesn't care about you. Whereas humans have got this empathy, right? If you imagine the scenario, right, where there's a tightrope, and there's a human walking across the tightrope. There's nothing below them, and they're balancing. You're going to be anxious for that human. Right? If they fall off, they're going to splat. And if you replace that with a robot, you're like, well, it's going to make a mess if it hits the ground, but whatever.
Yeah.
And there is this thing where
I hope it doesn't land on my car.
I hope it doesn't blow up.
Yeah.
But there's this thing where AI and robots and all of this stuff, the empathy is not there.
Yeah.
And so, I think we need to be careful. I think that, and again, I think in military applications, AI will get used to make soldiers make better decisions. And I think that's where AI fits right now. That's where AI fits, and that's where it's excellent. So, you could, and I saw brilliant examples in music where people have been using AI to isolate parts of tracks.
Yeah.
So they can say, actually, go and I just want to pull this particular bit out of this track. Or, you see weird uses of it where, they recreated some Oasis tracks and things like that, and got Liam's voice. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think that's particularly good. But I think where AI can be integrated into tooling, so into Pro Tools, for example, or into some other music tooling, and that helps you.
That assistive.
Yeah, that will it helps you and guides you to, so you can kind of go, so actually I want to do this thing, and it will go and help you do that. It's not going to play the guitar for you.
No.
But it will help you process it, help you deal with things, and just be more productive.
Or if you have a sort of physical limitation of some description, and mentally you've got this idea of like, I really want to get this thing out, but physically you can't do it. So it could assist you in that.
I think so. It's what we talked about, that creativity being the applied imagination. So you can imagine something, and I think where AI can help you with that creativity and getting that stuff out.
Yeah.
Whether that be a book, whether that be a poem, whether that be whatever, I think that's a positive thing. But I think AI right now I don't see it replacing that many people's jobs right now.
No.
I think in 20 years that we've got a different conversation to have.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think certainly over the next 5, it's ramping so quickly, so it's just a really dangerous thing to predict, right? I mean, if you look where, like Sora, the video AI from OpenAI last week, if you look back a year ago, it was showing Will Smith eating spaghetti.
Right.
So if you want to see, if you look at the source of it and then look at Will, and it was horrific.
Yeah.
The stuff a year ago was unreal. So the rate of change is just phenomenal. But I genuinely think we're probably 5 years away from AI being competent enough to replace fairly basic things.
Yeah. But in simple things like, let's say, you do the podcast and you've got like a sort of hum in the background, or you've got some imperfection, or there's some audio thing to assist the removal of that. I think Adobe's got some tech that already does that, actually.
Or the tooling, and that kind of stuff I think is excellent. But I think we're going to run into some other issues, right? I think we're going to start to run into some other things we've got to deal with. So, and one of them's the impact, the climate impact, the energy impact. These things are phenomenal, and not many people are talking about the energy
juice
cost,
heavy,
but they're phenomenal.
Really?
Yeah, they're absolutely phenomenal. And so, I know everybody's out there trying to come up with like custom silicon and things like this that will.
I was going to say, and this is all to do with processing, right?
Yeah, this is the training of the algorithm. So what will happen is they'll create the new algorithm, and then you've got to train it. So then what they'll do is they'll go and point that at this massive amount of data, and it's tens of thousands, 50,000 GPUs, mega powerful GPUs running flat out for months.
Yeah.
And that's getting even bigger. Even on that scale, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Is there a place for quantum in that, or is that a totally different sort of tech?
I don't know. Quantum computing is probably something for another podcast.
Yeah.
Quantum computing does lots of things in parallel.
Yeah.
So, for example, computing like pi in a quantum computer is incredibly successful, and you can compute it to immense depths really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Trying to draw a circle on a quantum computer is quite hard.
Right. Okay.
So they're a bit. They've got a use. I'm sure quantum computing will find.
But it might be a bit square peg round hole at the minute.
I don't really understand quanta to compute with it really, but the concepts are there, I think. But from an AI perspective, I think we've got to think about that, right? How these models, because everyone's in on it, right? There's no big tech company on the planet's not got some kind of data center running right now with thousands, 10,000 GPUs crunching some model somewhere.
Yeah.
So our energy usage as a species has gone up hugely,
right?
Because of computing these
Which
models.
is fine if the energy comes from the sun.
Yeah,
but a lot of it's still from burning stuff, isn't it?
Well, that's a really interesting point, because some of the models. So I was reading there was a model. So Microsoft had a team. I can't remember where they were based now, but they had a team that were looking at battery tech.
Yes, okay,
and they were running tons and tons of these models. One of the issues, there's problems with the structure of the materials in the battery. So they were looking at alternates, right? How to create a material that would respond better and be last longer and not deteriorate and these kinds of things. So they were using AI to run these models over and over and over again. And amazingly, that's come up with this most amazing solution. It's come up with this kind of really novel solution and materials to use. And I think, again, that's where AI is going to be really valuable in things like antiviral treatments, in medicines. And I think the positivity is just overwhelming for that, where AI currently today is better at spotting cancers than a cancer doctor.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That you are much better off having AI flagging. You're going through and flagging the images, and then anything it's not sure about, that goes to a real doctor, because humans are really good at the really obscure bits.
Yes.
But we're also really good at missing bits.
Yeah.
So if you have an AI running and then the human checks its work, that seems to be a good thing. It's much quicker. It can pick up things much sooner, and that's the positives from that. I mean, imagine right now you go and have some kind of cancer test, and then you've got to wait for months.
Yes.
While that gets analysed. Curiously, that technology is based on the same camera tech that scans checkouts.
Okay. Yeah.
They use the technology started to scan checkouts to see to analyze what was happening in checkouts to spot thefts. And they took that same concept and just kind of twiddled with it a little bit, and it can now spot cancer cells. And I think it can't really be overstated, right? Imagine this scenario that you're in where and this technology is going to just get better, but you go in, you have your scan, that goes off, a piece of AI then evaluates it almost in real time, right? The hospital can submit your stuff to it. It will then say, do you know what? Maybe it needs someone to look at it, or maybe it doesn't, but it happens really quickly. And there are tons, in medicine particularly, there are tons of cases where they're using it on CAT scans. I've seen them using it with lots of types of cancer, training it to detect certain types of cancer. Is that going to replace somebody's job? I mean, I don't think it is, but I think it might save some people's lives.
Yeah, and it might help someone with their job.
Yeah, but I think it's going to do other things as well, right? So I think if the natural evolution of that is that it will start to detect other things and earlier. So
aliens.
Yeah. But imagine if this is the way AI will work, right? So imagine if you have got a large quantity of data for the AI to train on. So you've got tons of these scans of cancer cells for the AI to train on. In theory, you should be able to get to a point where the AI is able to detect things earlier.
Yes,
than a human can do, because it's looking for patterns, it's looking for changes in things. So I just think, for me, that's one area which I just think there's no doubt that's.
And those places where you might have human error, like say when someone's tired, they're a bit hungover, those fallible things that we were talking about earlier that humans do, it's not going to have any of that stuff. No. So it can do the high level order, like thinking later, the kind of analysis stuff. But what it can also do is to not get fatigued by the lower order stuff. Becomes predictable, doesn't it? I think, I mean, we talked about this. I don't know whether we talked about it on last week's show or whether it was on one of our previous podcasts, but I take part in Our Future Health, where it's an NHS-run program, and they go and gather tons of data. They take blood tests and weigh you and all of that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, you said you're basically Superman. I am Superman. Although my Apple Watch was screaming at me that my VO2 health is low. What's VO2? It just means I'm unfit. Oh.
It means that it said something like your cardiovascular fitness is low.
Oh dear. This is why I don't have an Apple Watch anymore.
No, I took it off. and now my cardio fitness is great. I think that the uses of these things in those kinds of projects, right? So Our Future Health are gathering tons and tons of data about people, and the concept behind it is that it will allow them to predict, like develop early predictions for preventable disease. And I think AI is going to be extraordinarily good at that. So you point the algorithm at all that data, and it's incredibly good at sifting through that. So, my expectation is that we'll start to see more and more of these breakthroughs as these models start to get used in medicine, right? So I think you'll start to see it where PhD students are going to go, oh, I've got an idea. I wonder if we could use the model that does this to go and predict Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever.
Yeah.
And then point the algorithm at all of the historical data they've got, and then see what it makes of it, and try and use that to
imagination applied.
It is a little bit. I just think.
I wonder if it's all that, isn't it?
The potentials are huge, right? I think the risks of it are like so astronomically low, of the artificial intelligence going rogue, right? As we've discussed, it's not artificial intelligence, it's not a human thing, it's not alive, it's not real, it's literally just predicting which word to say next, right? It's a really simple, dumb thing to tool. But when it's used in certain ways, it kind of looks like magic, right? And I think that's where we're getting a little bit lost with it. And it is new and exciting, and that can be scary, right? Because it's something you're not used to. But and people are scared of losing their jobs to this thing, right? The press are doing a really good job of saying, hey, you're all going to lose your jobs. AI is going to do everything, and you're not going to have a job. I think that's just nonsense. But I think the value, specifically in medicine, specifically in science, and anything to do with data and analysis, and and also just working with kind of documents, working in a normal office job. I think these things are going to be radically powerful, and in like when the computer came in, right? I think it's analogous to me when you had an office, loads of filing systems, everything was done by hand, lots of faxing, and then computers came in and we had emails and things got stored and things got faster and you were able to do more. I think AI is just going to be like that, right? I think it's just going to be brilliant in medicine. I think it's going to be brilliant in terms of data, and I think that it's going to be brilliant in lots of other places where it's going to assist us, not replace us.
That's amazing. Oh, that's a good place to leave that one.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. See you next week. We got a plan.
Well, you've just announced a plan. What's that?
That we're going to do another one next week.
Yeah. What should we do it on?
Oh, no, that gets decided during the week.
Oh. Well, if you've got any ideas, you should tell us, because if you've got any ideas, tell us, what should we do the next one on?
Yeah, you tell us.
I have no idea what we should do the next week on. I'm sure it'll be great, though.
Yeah, it'll be wicked.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure, my friend, and we'll see you next week.
Ta-ra.
Thank you for listening to Hopeland. If you enjoyed the show, you can A. Subscribe on your favourite podcast service. B. Leave a nice review. C. Tell a friend or two. Turning off microphones. Presenters back in cold storage, where they belong.